A profound, magnificent silence is beautifully, flawlessly echoing through the grand sunlit halls of your awareness in this exact, unhurried moment. Listen closely to the breathtaking quiet of this new coordinate. The endless, exhausting noise of trying to fix yourself, upgrade your vibration, and heal your human avatar has just completely, permanently ceased. You have magnificently arrived at the glorious, absolute end of the seeking. You can finally, beautifully set down the heavy tools of self-improvement. For an astonishing portion of your journey within the dense, sleeping matrix, you were handed a profoundly agonizing, completely exhausting identity. The unawakened world lovingly but mistakenly convinced you that your physical avatar was a broken project, a continuous, endless construction site that required your constant, waking vigilance just to become acceptable. You were taught the heavy, painful illusion of the healing journey. You were conditioned to believe that your massive wealth, your profound love, and your absolute joy were permanently locked at the very top of an infinitely tall, incredibly steep staircase of spiritual and physical tests. You were beautifully, innocently instructed to constantly dig through your own shadows, to meticulously analyze your frequency, and to constantly treat your current, radiant reality as if it were simply a waiting room for a better version of yourself. The Matrix whispered the heavy lie that you were somehow fundamentally incomplete. It told you that if you just read one more book, cleared one more energetic block, or pushed through one more agonizing layer of friction, you would finally, someday, be worthy of stepping into your masterpiece. Think of the staggering, magnificent volume of your own divine life force that you have gracefully poured into the endless pursuit of becoming. Think of the profound, aching weight of carrying the belief that you are simply not there yet, constantly bracing against the feeling that you are a work in progress. But as you stand completely enveloped in the warm, radiant, and infinitely comforting truth of the seamless reality today, that heavy, burdensome tool belt simply dissolves into weightless golden light. It gracefully, entirely vanishes from your waist, and the endless staircase beautifully collapses into a perfectly flat, sun-drenched plateau of absolute arrival. Welcome to the beautiful, absolute relief of the finished work. The profound, infinite intelligence of the unified field has lovingly, magnetically drawn you to this exact coordinate in space and in time to offer you a joyous, undeniable graduation. This is the grand, beautiful celebration of your permanent retirement from the era of the seeker. Because you are the always present awareness, you do not exist in a state of partial completion. The staggering absolute truth of your natural state is that your masterpiece is already 100% built. The massive wealth, the profound love, and the exquisite peace you have been tirelessly working toward are not under construction. They are completely finished, flawlessly illuminated, and entirely ready for your immediate occupancy. You can beautifully, permanently step out of the heavy arena of the waiting room. The era of treating yourself as a project to be fixed is entirely, permanently over. You are completely whole, unconditionally perfect, and surrounded only by the magnificent, golden expanse of your fully realized existence, eagerly waiting for you to simply turn the key and walk inside. Feel the magnificent, effortless expansion of the very light in the room around you right now, as the dense, suffocating walls of the waiting room permanently, beautifully dissolve. For the vast majority of your journey through the unawakened matrix, you were handed a deeply terrifying, incredibly exhausting instrument of measurement. The unawakened world lovingly but mistakenly handed you a heavy, endless map, covered in complex routes, painful detours, and an infinite number of transitional steps between where you currently stood and the absolute staggering wealth and profound love you desired. You were conditioned to believe in the heavy, agonizing glorification of the journey. You were beautifully, innocently instructed to view your existence as a grueling pilgrimage. The Matrix whispered the heavy illusion that the universe operated like a massive construction company, that it took immense amounts of physical time, tremendous effort, and countless painful lessons to finally build the structure of your joy. You lived your beautiful, radiant days carrying the sheer exhaustion of a traveler who was always almost there, but who could never, ever put down their bags. You poured a staggering amount of your divine energy into constantly checking your vibrational alignment, terrified that if you stumbled on a single step, the entire staircase of your manifestation would crumble, sending you right back to the beginning of the grueling climb. Think of the tremendous, agonizing weight of holding that heavy, false distance. Think of how exhausted your energetic heart became, constantly bracing against the belief that you had to meticulously build your massive wealth and your perfect safety brick by agonizing brick. But as the warm, luminous sun of your own realization rises today, casting its brilliant golden light across the infinite landscape of your mind, I invite you to gently look at that heavy, endless staircase. Watch what beautifully, miraculously happens to those agonizing steps. See how the entire structure instantly, effortlessly flattens into a perfect, flawless, sun-drenched plateau in the undeniable truth of your always present awareness. The panic distance simply vanishes into the light. You were never meant to climb an endless mountain. You were never, ever required to build your own paradise from scratch. The staggering, joyous truth of your natural state is that the physical 3D reality does not build in stages. The unified field does not require physical time, transitional steps, or your exhausted labor to render your masterpiece. Because you are the vast, infinite intelligence of the seamless reality, your manifestations are instantly, flawlessly projected in their absolute, completed perfection. The heavy turbulence, the exhausting friction, and the terrifying panic of the journey were entirely, completely created by your own innocent, exhausted belief that you were separate from your desires, and that you had to forcefully cross a vast distance to reach them. When you gracefully release the heavy illusion of distance, you beautifully, instantly realize that there is absolutely no gap between you and your massive wealth, your profound love, or your ultimate joy. They are not waiting for you to heal. They are not waiting for you to raise your vibration. They are simply beautifully waiting for you to realize that you are already standing inside of them. When you simply drop the map and step off the staircase, the universe does not make you fall. It beautifully, flawlessly recenters you at the absolute destination. You are completely safe exactly where you are. Your arrival is perfectly assured, completely effortless, and entirely untouched by the illusion of the climb. You can finally let the frantic seeking fade entirely away. You have always possessed the completed masterpiece. Deeply resting within the magnificent, triumphant center of the seamless reality, there is a breathtaking, mechanical truth that instantly, permanently dissolves the agonizing illusion of the endless construction site. This is the glorious, undeniable revelation of the finished architecture. For countless cycles in the unawakened matrix, you were taught the deeply exhausting, agonizing concept of constant, physical, and spiritual renovation. You were beautifully, innocently instructed to believe that your human avatar was a fixer-upper, and that every single massive result, every profound connection, and every mountain of wealth required a direct, exhausting demolition of your past before the new reality could even begin to be built. The dense 3D canvas convinced you of the terrifying idea of the void, the heavy illusion that if you were not constantly analyzing your flaws, violently tearing down old beliefs, and frantically hammering new affirmations into place, the grand estate of your joy would simply remain a pile of unfulfilled blueprints. It was a philosophy of profound anxiety, built entirely on the premise that you were a tired carpenter, endlessly working on a house you were never allowed to actually live in. But as you gracefully and beautifully step into the warm, radiant light of your true nature, you realize the staggering, joyous truth that changes the very physics of your manifestation forever. The physical 3D canvas is not a chaotic construction zone waiting for your exhausted labor. It is a flawlessly completed, magnificent neighborhood of absolute perfection. The magnificent unified field has already perfectly, flawlessly built every single inch of the staggering wealth, the breathtaking love, and the absolute perfection you desire. They are not rough drafts. They are not works in progress. They are entirely finished masterpieces, existing right now in the always present awareness, simply waiting for your physical avatar to realize you are already holding the keys. Because you are the seamless reality, the grand author of the entire physical mirror, you are never, ever the laborer. You are the joyous, magnificent owner. You are eternally occupying the finished architecture. When you gracefully release the heavy habit of trying to fix yourself and simply rest in the absolute trust of the natural state, you beautifully realize that spiritual and physical action is no longer a desperate requirement to earn your home. It is simply the joyous, effortless act of walking through the front door. The mechanics of this magnificent truth are breathtakingly simple and completely undeniable. When you stop frantically trying to rebuild your frequency and instead rest in the absolute knowing that the universe has already rendered your massive wealth and your profound love in their final flawless form, a profound, beautiful shift occurs within your physical vessel. You completely drop the exhausting tool belt. This is the glorious final arrival. You do not have to endure a heavy, exhausting renovation period. You simply rest in your absolute, sovereign power, entirely unbothered, entirely relaxed, and watch the physical world beautifully, completely hand over the deed to the life that was always entirely yours. You do not have to paint the walls. You do not have to lay the foundation. You simply, joyously sit in the grand, sunlit living room of your fulfilled desires. Bring your quiet attention beautifully to the very center of your physical hands in this magnificent, unhurried moment. Notice the staggering, euphoric lightness resting right there in your palms, the heavy, agonizing tools of self-improvement, the exhausting blueprints of your endless healing, and the dense weight of the spiritual hammer have completely, flawlessly vanished from your grasp. Your hands are entirely, beautifully empty of the hustle. We are gracefully, majestically crossing the final threshold into the absolute physical realization of the grand estate. Imagine yourself standing in the warm, radiant light of a flawless, sun-drenched afternoon. Before you sits the most magnificent, breathtaking architecture you have ever witnessed. This is a sprawling, golden pavilion of absolute perfection, resting peacefully on the edge of a perfectly still, mirror-like expanse of water. The sunlight beautifully catches every flawless edge, every soaring pillar, and every grand open window. This is the ultimate physical manifestation of your massive wealth, your profound love, and your unshakable peace. As you look upon this staggering masterpiece, a beautiful cellular wave of absolute relief entirely saturates your being. You beautifully realize that there is absolutely zero scaffolding around this magnificent structure. There are zero construction materials waiting in the grass. The air is completely clear, vibrating gently with the rich, humming warmth of a project that is 100% flawlessly complete. You look down at your open, rested hand, and you see that you are holding a single, glowing, weightless golden key. The unified field is not asking you to build this reality. It is simply, joyously inviting you to move in. As you take your first beautiful step toward the grand, towering front doors of this estate, you physically feel the heavy gravity of the seeker identity permanently release its grip on your cells. You are gliding forward, propelled by the magnificent, joyful intelligence of the always present awareness. You completely, beautifully understand that you are entirely worthy of this arrival right now, exactly as you are. You step up to the grand entrance and you gracefully slide the glowing golden key into the lock. It turns with a soft, flawless click, and the massive doors beautifully swing wide open, welcoming you into the staggering, illuminated sanctuary of your finished life. You step inside and the breath catches in your chest at the sheer, overwhelming beauty of what the universe has perfectly arranged for you. Every single room is entirely, flawlessly furnished. The magnificent, life-altering wealth is perfectly stacked and glowing in the center of your reality. The profound, breathtaking love is already gracefully seated at the table, radiating absolute warmth. The absolute peace is woven into the very fabric of the air. You walk slowly through the grand, sunlit living room of your fulfilled desires, gently running your fingertips over the flawless, finished surfaces. You are entirely, completely home. Allow the magnificent, euphoric reality of this finished architecture to completely and flawlessly anchor into your consciousness right now. Feel the absolute, staggering joy of simply taking up permanent residence in the light. The heavy, exhausting era of the waiting room is beautifully, permanently over. The entire cosmos is perfectly, silently celebrating your grand arrival, eagerly watching the master finally sit down in the masterpiece. As the magnificent, warm, and absolute certainty of this flawless architecture beautifully settles into the very marrow of your physical bones, allow your gentle awareness to smoothly, triumphantly return to the room around you. When your physical eyes softly open, look upon the familiar space and beautifully realize that your relationship to the entire 3D canvas has just permanently, fundamentally transformed. The exhausting, heavy illusion that you are a broken project, constantly in need of healing, fixing, and upgrading has completely, flawlessly evaporated from your human experience. You have gracefully, permanently stepped entirely out of the endless hallway of the seeker. When you move through the physical world today, tomorrow, and for the remainder of your magnificent journey, you are no longer walking as a weary traveler, frantically searching for the next piece of the puzzle. You are navigating the seamless reality with the breathtaking, unhurried grace of the eternal owner, intimately and joyously aware that the grand estate of your massive wealth, your profound love, and your absolute joy is already 100% complete. You will experience your daily life with the staggering ease of true arrival. When the dense, sleeping matrix attempts to hand you the heavy illusions of inadequacy, the need for more spiritual tests, or the terrifying lie that your manifestation is somehow delayed by your own vibration, you will not react with the panicked, frantic energy of someone who believes they have to start building all over again. You will simply, quietly smile from the sun-drenched sanctuary of your finished work. You will look at the infinite expanse of your timeline, and you will understand that the unified field has already perfectly, joyously furnished every single room of your dream reality. You will not pick up the heavy hammer of self-improvement. You will simply rest in your magnificent perfection, and you will beautifully, automatically live from the glorious vantage point of having it all right now. There is nothing left to fix. There is absolutely no distance left to cross. The entire illusion of the endless staircase is permanently over, and the canvas of light is beautifully, perfectly handing you the keys to the kingdom. To permanently and beautifully anchor this staggering, monumental graduation into absolute physical reality, I invite you to leave your triumphant, joyous signature on this transmission. Subscribe to this channel not as a student looking for another lesson, but as a grand, eternal master joyously claiming the pristine, effortless perfection of your absolute arrival. Take your honored, rightful seat in the grand assembly of awakened creators who understand the staggering secret of the finished masterpiece. You are completely, eternally home here. Leave a like on this video as a beautiful physical declaration of your unshakable completion. A brilliant, golden spark deliberately added to the unified field to silently tell the entire cosmos that you have completely dropped the tools of the seeker and you are resting in the untouchable light of the final destination. And finally, step into the joyous, welcoming sanctuary of the comments below. Claim your permanent, unbothered residence in this beautiful, finished awareness. Join the glorious, expanding chorus of creators who have also entirely surrendered the exhausting illusion of the waiting room today, and cast your triumphant frequency into the world by typing these exact words. The building is completely finished. I joyously move into my masterpiece. Type it slowly with a gentle, absolute knowing resting in your heart. Feel the staggering, euphoric relief of those words radiating from your fingertips and echoing endlessly across the flawless, golden halls of your new reality. There is nothing left to heal. There is nothing left to build. The magnificent, fully realized life is entirely yours. Welcome home.